Arshad sir, you can unmute and you can start.
Good evening, friends. Today, I am requested to start this meeting because Swamiji is coming about 20 minutes late. So I will speak for about 20 minutes and then Swamiji will speak. Today's topic is good and evil, the age-old debate. The word good is related to God, which is the absolute goodness. And the word evil is related to devil, which is a very, very absolute darkness, ignorance. And this topic of good and evil is of interest only to human beings who are able to think. This are the other life forms like birds, animals, insects. For them, there is nothing like good and evil. And I would say that if a person whose mind is very, very quiet, maybe this good and evil, they are only the words invented by the language, English language. But there is a meaning behind this word good. What it indicates is very good qualities like happiness, peace, liberation or freedom, light, purity, no self, balance, order. All this are comes on the side of good. And on the side of evil, there are like chaos, selfishness, impurity, darkness, suffering, and so many problems which human beings go through. And in a human being, both these qualities exist. Most of us, because we are neither absolutely good or absolutely evil, but we are somewhere in between. And that reminds me of an old song from old film Mother India, in which there is a song which says, Name Bhagwan hu, Name Shaitan hu. दुनिया जो चाहे समझे मैं तो इंसान हूं मुझ में भलाई भी है मुझ में बुराई भी है थोड़ा सा नेक हूं थोड़ा बेईमान हूं so partly we are good and partly we are not good and these qualities exist in the form of many conditioning we are brought up with and we are not aware of many of this conditioning. But later on, if we begin to look inward at a deeper level, maybe there is a possibility of being free from evil. There is a story in Bible is about Adam and Eve. They live in the Garden of Eden and they were completely free because they did not think, and they were very innocent, and they were told not to eat the fruit from the tree of knowledge, means the tree of good and evil. But Eve, the woman, she ate the fruit of good and evil, and then problem started happening in their life. They became very self-conscious, both Adam and Eve. This is a story only, but it indicates that when we become conscious of ourselves, we begin to have this feeling of good and evil, and there's some kind of conflict which exists within us. And there's another song which comes to my mind. It says, it says to the God, तूने रचा एक अद्भुत प्राणी जिसका नाम इंसान, जिसकी नन्ही जान के भीतर भरा हुआ तूफान, इस जग में इंसान के दिल को कौन सका पहचान, इसमें ही शैतान छुपा है, इसमें ही भगवान. So it says that the human mind is very, very strange, and in our mind exists all kinds of problems and feelings and contradiction, conflicts, all that. And our life, our human existence is the constant struggle between good and evil. And if you look at our scriptures like Mahabharata, in that there was a war between Pandava and Kaurava. And Pandavas were on the side of good, and Kauravas were on the side of evil, and there was a fight between the two. Similarly, in Ramayana, another scripture, there is a fight between Ram and Ravan, and Ram indicated all the good qualities, and Ravan was on the side of bad or adharma. So it was a war between dharma and adharma. Ashtavakra, a great philosopher who lived many, many years ago, he says about good and evil, like dharma and adharma, belongs to the human mind only. It doesn't belong to you who is forever free. And he says that we are not the mind, we are not the body, but something else, what Krishnamurti would call awareness, or the scriptures will call it true self or Atman. So our true nature, according to Upanishad, is really free. They call such Chit Anand, Satchidanand, which means happiness, bliss, truth. That is our true nature. But maybe it seems that it may be true nature, but when we are born, we are not like that. We are born with many, many conditioning. And then later on, if we are able to look very clearly within us, all the problems, good, evil, and we are able to see clearly what is happening, then there is a possibility of eliminating many of the bad qualities or evil. In Krishnamurti's teachings, Krishnamurti considers that good has no relationship with evil. They are completely uh, away from each other. It's like a lightness and dark. When there is light, there is no darkness. So, and darkness is the absence of light. So, um, and Krishnaji also says what we call good, if it comes from bad, then it is not good. Like if we behave very nicely because we are afraid that we will be punished, then that is not good. Though it may be a good behavior, but it is based on fear. And similarly, when people do some good work, like social work, but they are doing this good work because they think that they will be respected in society and their ego will become stronger, then that kind of good work is not good work in Krishnamurti's philosophy. And this conflict between good and evil within human beings is expressed in some slokas also, which says asato ma sadgamaya. This means lead me to the truth from false. And tamaso ma jyotirgamay. Take me to the light from darkness, and mrityu ma amrutam gamay. So from death, take me to the light, life. So all this conflict between human beings in human beings exists throughout our life, and philosophy and religion are the ways by which we can eliminate many problems which we create for ourselves out of ignorance about our own self. So the philosophy of Upanishad or Buddhism or Krishnamurti philosophy, if it can turn us to look inward, and if we can look clearly how thoughts and feelings are happening, are coming into existence, then, and not judging it, calling it good or bad, but looking from a dimension different than thinking, then there is a possibility of eliminating many evil or bad feelings like anger or jealousy. And all these problems are affecting human beings and taking away the energy which is needed for doing a real good work. And all the good qualities are expressed in a bhajan called Vaishnava Janto tene kahiye. That means a good person is the one who understands the suffering of other people and he helps other people without having the pride that I am the one who is doing good work. So these are the thoughts which come to my mind about this eternal problem of good and evil which exist in ourselves, in society, on a wider scale, like the wars happening, the fear, and which exist in Pakistan or India or China, America. And at the same time, there is a desire to become the best. So all this exists in each human beings. And I would say that there is a possibility of understanding all this and seeing it. Understanding means seeing it very clearly. And then when we see clearly, then there is a freedom. Like Krishnaji says, perception is the action. So I have finished whatever I had to say. And now Swamiji can take over and say thank you very much.
Welcome, Chidananji. Please.
Namaste, namaste. Good evening, everybody. So, may I begin then?
Yeah,
Yes.
please.
I'm happy that in the last 5 minutes, I could hear what Harshadji was sharing. That gave me a clue of his general emphasis in this matter, I guess. And so, to an extent, I will pick from where he left. I will pick the thread from the point where he left it. This is a very fascinating topic. Sometimes, to use a dramatic language, people say from time immemorial, humanity is having war and peace with values. War and peace. This good and evil are a dichotomy that presents itself in the medium of values. This is a good value, that is a bad value, this is a good practice, that is an evil practice. These people are kind and those people are cruel. On and on, the human mind goes on judging, labeling, and everybody thinks that he is right and the other person is wrong. There's definitely war, and I guess peace is so elusive and very momentary. I don't think there is true peace, but there is an illusion of peace at times when people feel, okay, at last we are now okay, we are enjoying life, and so on. Human life is fraught with suffering, insecurity, and anxiety. This topic has been touched by or touched upon by Krishnaji also in his talk in Mumbai in 1955. Please permit me to read out a little paragraph from his collected works. Apparently, this was in a talk he delivered in Bombay in 1955. He says, when there is complete attention, that is, when the mind is totally aware, alert, watchful, there is no such thing as evil and good. Let me repeat a part of it. When the mind is totally aware, there is no such thing as evil or good. There is only an awakened state. Goodness then is not a quality, not a virtue, it's a state of love. When there is love, there is neither good nor bad, there is only love. When you really love somebody, you are not thinking of good or bad. Your whole being is filled with that love. It's only when there is the cessation of complete attention of love, there comes the conflict between what I am and what I should be. Then that which I am is evil, and that which I should be is the so-called good. I complete or end this quote. This is a lot of food for thought for us. There is a state of love which we come upon through complete attention, it is said here. And it is the cessation of attention that again makes way for good and evil to come into being. To draw a couple of words one last time from the quotation, it is in the cessation of complete attention that good and evil seem to arise. And what is good in such a scenario? Some rosy idea of what I should be, how the country should be, how the society should be, how this other person should be. These rosy ideas of how things should be is looked at by the conditioned mind as the good. And again, an idea, not the fact, an idea of how we are. We are so wretched, we are background, we are lazy, or we are unintelligent. We go on putting labels on ourselves and lament. We cry, we weep, or we fret and fume. We blame Tom, Dick, or Harry for our present condition. There is no attention in that self-blaming either. Therefore, we should say that this blaming a certain scenario as bad and hoping for another scenario as good are all the operations of the conditioned mind. Complete attention is the antidote to all conditionings. And the state of love is a state where we are not in the clutches of conditionings. We are not in the clutches of some prior programming. We are no more operating as machines, but we operate through true intelligence. So this is said, we have read, we have heard from many quarters, but it is time for us to do a bit of reflection. What is this conditioning? And how come there is a prospect or a possibility of rising to a state, an awakened state, where there is neither evil nor good? This is very thought-provoking. So I would tend to say and share with you that this business of good and evil are generally defined in terms of the angle of view. Offhand, an example comes to my mind. On the 4th Thursday of November every year in the United States, I don't know whether they do it in Canada also, but in the United States, the 4th Thursday of November every year is called Thanksgiving Day. And roughly, if I remember what the background of that is, when the white people came from England and other parts of Europe, there was a phase where the Native Americans were resisting, were opposed to these people who came. And of course, a lot of bloodshed, a lot of killing, a lot of other things happened. But then there came a time, at least at places, the white people from Europe were accepted, received, welcomed. When the white people saw that they are being accepted and welcomed, they said thanks to God, probably thanks to the natives. Thank you for receiving us. We have come several thousands of miles from Europe to this new land, newfound land. That is Thanksgiving. But now, without making it long, on the Thanksgiving Day in USA, all over the country, lots of millions and millions of turkeys. Turkey is one of the birds, right? The bird called turkey is brought home and cooked. Now see, I'll now straight come to this good and evil. All people having a grand dinner with a turkey cooked and prepared, they, from their angle of view, this is a good day. This is a day of celebration. This is where we remember that great day 400, 500 years ago when we were welcomed and accepted on this land. Aha, this is good. Now, why not for a moment all of us think of it from the angle of view of the turkeys themselves? They would be so afraid. This third or fourth Thursday, sometimes in November may have 5 Thursdays. Therefore, the definition of Thanksgiving Day is the 4th Thursday of November. Sometimes, okay, this for the turkeys, the 4th Thursday is what they dread. In huge numbers, they are slaughtered. So what is good for one is evil for another. During my high school days, where I was not exposed to higher forms of thinking, somebody told me a line about patriotism. Somebody said, you know what? Our country, good or bad, our country, good or bad, if it is good, keep it good. If it is bad, make it good. And so on. So the human mind gets obsessed with my country, my religion, my language, my boundaries, right? My food habit, my way of dressing, etc. And with that strong conditioning, the human mind stops inquiring further. It only wishes to advance its self-interest. Meanwhile, the other country also says, my country, good or bad, if good, keep it good. If bad, set it, bad, set it good or make it right, and so on. Look at how narrowness enters into our consciousness in our immature perceptions of what is good and what is evil. Therefore, it is the thought arising from memory, thought which has in earlier times subscribed to a belief that engenders this duality of good and bad. Now, how do we connect love with good and evil? When the mind is freed from its conditionings, in attention, when some of these questionable ideas which are framed or formed from particular angles of view are diluted, are cast aside, one is not judgmental. One has certain freshness of approach. And we have reason to believe that love and freshness of approach go together. What we ordinarily call love is another confusion. We say, I love this woman, oh, I love that house, I love this food. These are all certain habitual patterns making a lot of noise. It has been rightly said by some thinkers that Love is one of the most misused words in English. And of course, similar words in other languages too. Maybe if you go to Bollywood, one of the most misused words in Bollywood would be pyar. You make a movie have the title with some word pyar. Maine pyar kar chuka hai sanam or something. The word pyar comes there, the ticket sale will go up. And what kind of pyar they will be showing in the movie, we do not know. I love you. In fact, in the newspapers, very often we hear that a boy approached a girl, said, I love you. And she spurned him. She said, no, I don't want to do anything with you. And the boy again said, but I love you. The girl second, third time, rejected him. Then the boy brought some kerosene oil and poured on her and set her on fire. Now you know what he meant by I love you. That bloody love was nothing but a crazy attraction to the flesh or attraction to some fancy, some imagination he had in his own mind. Though he said, approaching that girl, I love you, he did not know her at all, what she is. Without understanding another person, do we have any right to say, I love you? Which is that you? What is that you talk about? Do you know me before you say, I love you? So, when our own fancies, our own imaginations, our own favorite or comfortable lines of thinking, where we visit again and again, subside, then there is a room for true love. Therefore, not very long on this, I thank Harshad ji for sharing a lot of essential insights into this matter. And now I will pause and I would love to get into the interactive mood or interactive mode, I should say, where we can share our thoughts on good and evil, whether they have an absolute meaning at all, or they are all relative terms which vanish into thin air in the process of true inquiry. In complete attention, we can discuss this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chidananji. Mr. Pradeep Verma wanted to ask or comment.
Please. Yeah, please.
Namaskar, Swamiji. Namaskar.
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 I have some very
Yes, please ask. I'm hearing.
I have some very basic, simple, straight questions.
Please do ask.
And the first question is whether violence is evil. Whether violence is evil. Or put it another way, whether violence is good also. First question. Then, was there any time in human history when only goodness ruled? Rule may not be the right word because ruling itself brings so many conflicts. Whether there are absolute good and evil, whether one can change into another, one can change into another.
Yes. So
because of our terrible conditionings, there is a widespread neurosis in the society. Such a mind cannot discern good and evil. You see, you have explained so many things, what is right from Bollywood to whatever is being interpreted as good, evil, and then other things related to that, good, bad, and all that. But what is rampant violence? which is so very clear and anybody can see it. Nobody can see, I can't see it based on my limited this or that, limited this. So this what is very clear to all of us. Why this has happened. You see, JK talked without quotations and interpretations, always talking straight to the public, straight to the person questioning. So these basic questions are still, I don't know the answer. It's not that I'm testing anyone. These are perpetually, these questions are there because somewhere you will find in all the so-called organized religions, some sort of support to the violence. It is there, very much there. Even historically, you can see it. And those people are considered as religious people. So we have to really think very seriously, in spite of all the words of wisdom, why the present is what is so terrible. Why it is so terrible. This is what is to me. There is no point in finding polarities that violence, non-violence, this and that. But whatever has happened, the present situation is very, very alarming. Maybe JK talked a lot about environmental pollution. And at the fag end, you are at the end almost when you can become extinct anytime, in spite of scriptures, all good words, very wise people in all the in different countries, everything is there. But why this situation is there? Should we not very seriously talk at least for 8 to 10 these things and discuss? He talked about discussing in togetherness when the energy can be, you see, concentrated together, togetherness, the dialogue and all that. But what is happening is something of great concern to me. I'll be very happy if you can say a few words and some more people can join. Exactly, this is what is, how to face what is. Thank you very much for giving me enough time.
All right. May I say some words, Harshad ji?
Yes.
So I'll take the second question first. The second question was there any time in the history of mankind when goodness alone ruled the earth? I would imagine never. Humanity always suffered from all these confusions, which we see today also. So I took the easier question. I don't think it is utopian, or it's more a, comfortable imagination to think that during some time of this king or that king in this country or that country, there prevailed absolute, goodness and honesty and so on. At best, there must have been some relative peace for a while inwardly human beings had violence. Now, coming to the first question, which I think was your main question, can violence be good? Violence is on two levels, physical and mental. On the mental plane, when there is a rejection of another person, when one rejects another, one hates another, one believes that in putting that other person down, sometimes by killing that other person, some order would come to the society or to his family and so on. That is definitely evil. In that emotional violence, I don't think there can be goodness anywhere. But otherwise, philosophically speaking, a surgeon cutting open a patient's tummy also has violence. Even when the anesthesia, anesthesia wears out and there is post-operational suffering and so on. And there are lots of times where people have to take a tough decision and we could be hurting people. But you see, if the mind of the person who takes some tough decisions is free from any malice, free from any dvesha, any hatred, then there can be a semblance of goodness in it. So on a certain plane, we give more importance to the motives and the quality of the emotions which set in motion a particular action. Of course, going deeper, it is freedom from any thought, any conditioning. But much before we arrive there, if there is no dvesha, the statement by Mahatma Gandhi makes certain sense. It may not be the ultimate truth. That statement I am referring to is when Gandhi said, hate the deed, not the doer. Let there be no hatred towards any person. Rather, a particular act, a particular deed could be the object of our, though he used the word hatred, it's not exactly hatred, it's disapproval. You say this is not the way to do and so on, but we have nothing against that particular person. Lastly, violence is an expression of tremendous disorder. The human mind is highly confused. People who have studied a lot, traveled a lot, maybe written books and whatnot are also confused when you scratch the surface. They also, knowingly or unknowingly, are pursuing personal ambition. When there is ambition, violence is bound to come into the picture. When there is the clinging to some form of becoming, I want to become, I want to sit on that chair, my picture should come in the newspaper, I want to be quoted in some get-together as the wise man, I want the society to look at me as a wise person and so on. When there is the desire to project and protect an image, violence is bound to come into the picture and the division between good and evil arise. Therefore, I'll not make it very long, let me say one last sentence. In the letting go of wanting to become, violence subsides and true goodness, which is not relative to evil, can enter the scene. I request Harshadji if he has something to say about this.
Yes, like sometimes violence may be necessary, like in the war in the Mahabharata, Arjuna did not want to fight the Kauravas, which were on the side of Adharma. And Krishna explained why Arjuna should fight. So that fight between Dharma and Adharma, it is necessary. Wherever there is like now Taliban, they are behaving like a terrorist and they are making people very unhappy, their own people in Afghanistan. So some kind of action is necessary, it seems sometimes. And similarly, when these sages, rishis, when they were meditating, some people, some Rakshasas, they were bothering. And so Rama tried to protect by driving away all these evil spirits. So violence may be necessary in the interest of dharma. And at one time a cow was suffering so much that Gandhiji allowed the cow to be killed so that she would not suffer anymore. So sometimes this kind of action of violence may be necessary if it comes from clarity and goodness, then even violence may be necessary sometimes. Okay, I finish.
Swamiji, Satyaji has put some question for you. Would you please read from the notes and we'll answer it? Because you have to go.
I will open the chat box. Yes, it must be in the chat box.
Yes.
So we have Shakti Kumar, who says, does the word evil denote the same idea what the word Ashubha conveys? In parenthesis, I recall a promise by someone that a certain message will make one free of Ashubha. Is being attentive a way out? Then again, sorry, I can't ask the question through audio presently, hence the message. Okay. So the essential question is, does the word evil denote the same idea that the word Ashubha conveys? Definitely. Ashubha and Papa and many other words, Agha and Amangala, Ashubha is same as Amangala. So all these are one category. They are the same as evil. Certainly, that message by somebody would make one free of Ashubha. Yeah, some harmonious messages. Harshadji rightly and in an outspoken manner talked about very many real life examples. Now, in the case of Taliban, suppose one of the Taliban leaders says tomorrow, enough of this violence, we will now bring harmony among every citizen, among all the citizens in our country, without looking into what group they belong to, etc. Suppose some such message comes from a Taliban leader, that would certainly make one free from Ashubha. Otherwise, generating fear, generating various other negativities in the minds of people is a terrible affair. So we know that saints and sages brought fear and such negativities down, and they facilitated peace and love in the hearts of those who came in their proximity. Our own Krishnaji's works, though superficially it seemed that he pulled down everything. He was an iconoclast. He is even now described as an idol breaker. The word iconoclast actually means idol breaker only. Icon is idol. But you and I also have experienced, and we also see a lot of people found tremendous peace after reflecting on the teachings. And that is departure of Ashubha. Ordinarily, let me say one last point, a lot of us are caught in some worldly pursuits. We want to be famous, we want to be rich, we want to, all those. And when we reflect on the teachings, we suddenly realize, hey, I don't have to be famous to be happy. I don't have to be rich to be happy. I don't have to be popular in my town. I don't need somebody's praise. Hey, I don't need all of that to be happy. That insight comes to us in the teachings. Therefore, such an insight drives away evil, drives away Ashubha, it chases away Amangala, it frees our life from pap, sin. All these words do come together. Hope I have addressed the issue.
May I start, sir?
Yeah. You can start, but be brief, please, because Swamiji has to go at 7:10.
Yeah, only 3 words. My question is, sir, what happens? This manifests. Why this manifest ends? What happens
Internet problem.
when we physically die? What our ancient scriptures will say? Have noted the question on the chat box also.
Swamiji, would you please like to answer this? Swamiji, would you like to answer this?
So he left the Chirmia mission.
Okay,
I think he's not there
okay, okay.
or some problem with the video.
You answer it then.
Okay. Shall I answer? Okay. Okay, let me answer this. What our scripture says, most of the points have been covered by Arshad sir, but there are some points which are very important. All the Puran and Shastra are very clear on this issue. There are 2 types of mentalities they describe. One is Devta, another is Rakshas or your Dano. What is the Devta mentality? Devta mentality is I should live and others should also live. I should follow my dharma in all the goodness and let other also live and they should follow their dharma. Whereas what Rakshas and Dano mentality says, I don't want the other at all. If I want the other at all, if it is there or inevitable, then I should be in a position to use him or exploit him. So Devta follows Jio and Jine Do, whereas they follow that मुझे दूसरा नहीं चाहिए या चाहिए तो भोग के लिए exploit के लिए चाहिए, exploitation के लिए चाहिए. So our scriptures are very clear on this. Now this is clear demarcation between Devta and Rakshas and Dano, but we human beings are in between. We are, as Arshad sir said, we are having the good qualities also and we are having the bad qualities also. And Gita is very clear on this, that what are your instincts? As per your instinct, you have to flower your good gunas. Here the gunas as per the dharma. Whatever the dharma is giving you the gunas or attribute, you have to follow them and you have to flower them. You have to flower the good gunas and you have to subside or control the negative gunas. And at the same time, when you are flowering this, you should be in a position to do the yajna. Yajna means your whatever acts you will be doing, that should support the total environment. Just like a tree, what tree does, it takes the carbon dioxide and gives the oxygen. And in that way, it helps the total environment. So you should be also positioned to strengthen you and do your pushti, what they said. And at the same time, by your acts, the total environment should also be strengthened, or you should be in a position to contribute to the environment. That's what they say. So it is very clear.
Wagmare, I have to make an announcement.
I have given already the answer, but I would also say some more things.
Sir, I have to. I have to announce, sir. Please bear with me. Chidananji has said that there were continuous lectures by him, so his internet has finished. But with the help of somebody else, he will be coming. He is trying to do that. If he comes, he will answer the questions. That's the only announcement which is must for me.
Shall I continue with my saying? Can I continue with my saying?
Who can stop you?
with due respect to Jain Sahab, I am asking the permission. I am asking the permission with all the humility and all.
Go ahead and consider Ravi and others. They have to ask some questions.
Okay.
Please.
I will finish within 5 to 7 minutes. I will try to finish rather. Yeah. So what further they say, that there is a God which is beyond all this, Krishnamurti is also saying that there is a beyond there is a state. But as far as the Devta and Rakshas are concerned, they are having all this duality with available to them, and they are actually captured, or they are having problems with this duality, and they have to solve the problem of duality to the best of their this thing. They have to take care of their all good aspects, and they have to take care of all their negative aspects as well. They have to reduce the negative aspects or control them, and they have to flourish all the good aspects. So even if we go to the Upanishads and even this, they also say that there is a basic Maya, Mool Maya, which they call. So that is actually free from all this, or that level is free from all this. But there is a Gun Maya, which is having the Sattva Raja Tama, which Harsha sir has also pointed out. So here there is a polarity exists, and all suffers. Whosoever is in ignorance and is captured in this gunas, three gunas, they suffer because of this duality, and they have to take care of all their negative this thing, tamasic vritti, and they have to take care of their good vrittis, which is sattva guni. Okay, sir. Thank you.
Yeah.
Ravi sir, please unmute and say.
Good evening.
Ravi,
It was
please
great,
unmute.
and I'm really thankful to Swamiji to bring the Bombay talk. And I had always had a duality about the good versus evil. The whole of my life, I had been conditioned about this duality, and kept thinking about the mythology, because I had read a lot of mythological stories, and especially the Chanda Mama and other. So, and I had been thinking about this Mahabharata all the time, about the good and evil. So I think that Mahabharata, this Granth had conditioned our Indian Hindu mind that there is a duality, good versus evil, and because of that we cannot translate, we cannot go beyond it, and that's why we are not able to understand the oneness. And during this phase, I had been my own whole life, I had been criticizing, fighting with myself, and then I realized that duality lies within me. Whenever the thoughts comes, whenever I try to take a decision, I take a decision, and the other thought comes up and say you have taken the wrong decision. So duality is there, and the one who had taken the decision is evil, and the other who is criticizing it is a good. So whenever I do, there is duality, and there is evil and good within me. So that is a conditioning of duality within me. And as Harshadi pointed out about Taliban, I do feel that political awakening is the starting of intelligence or spiritual awakening. And I have seen this during my political interest. The Taliban is created by America itself. They trained it, FBI trained it, Saddam Hussein, and ultimately the whole Iran, Iraq, Afghanistan became the war point because they were interested in the oil. Now, before that, they were interested in diamond, so Africa was destroyed. Now they are interested in water, so India is the war point. So evil and good is nothing but our thinking, the thought, the duality in the thought, and due to that, if we cannot translate, we cannot understand. And as I'm really thankful to Swamiji to bring that Bombay talk, where he says that awakening alertness is a reason, a formula, a method to go beyond this duality. Thank you very much.
Chidananji, would you please like to say something? He's talking of Bombay talk. Would you please say?
Chidananji, please unmute.
I did not hear the latest question, but did you say Bombay talk?
He referred Bombay talk.
Okay, that portion which I took from the Bombay talk of 1955, Krishnaji says, when there is complete attention, this good and evil both vanish, and the awakened state is marked by just love. That's what he says. And I have dwelt on this a little bit in whatever I talked earlier. If I may say a little more on that, it is freedom from taking sides, freedom from any identification. Like the speaker just before me now said, everybody has this tendency. What I say has to be good because I say it. And what the other man says has to be wrong. The other fellow has to be wrong. So there is this undue obsession, undue amount of possessiveness about this me, So we keep changing sometimes our identification. Sometimes, somebody from North India may say, I am a North Indian. Somewhere else he say, I am an Indian. Somewhere else he may say, I am a software engineer. So these are all various identifications. Therefore, I would say in that Bombay talk, Krishnaji is making an appeal for us to denude ourselves, that is, strip ourselves of all identifications and look at things in what normally we call objectively. An objective perception brings true love in, but clinging to some particular idea of who we are causes distortion of perception. That's what seems to me is the essence.
Pradeep Verma, would you please unmute and say? Please
Yes,
try
sir.
to finish. Yeah, Pradeep
Yes.
Verma.
It should be short.
Yeah.
It should be okay. Because what Harshad ji virtually justified violence under certain conditions. You see, so if with this view, do you think there is any possibility, even in future, to achieve that state of peace, that state of equanimity? Because this is something, I have to quote JK because if I quote JK, probably it will have more weight for those people who listen carefully when JK's word is there. What is truly good will not create antagonism, either at home or abroad. It will bring about unity between man and man. What is truly good will be concerned with the totality of man and not with some superficial benefit that may lead only to greater calamity and misery. It will put an end to the division and the enmity that nationalism and organized religions have created. These are the words of JK. So this is not such a simple thing, defining dharma. Even swadharma different, then a collective dharma is different, and the caste-based dharma is different. You see, it is not easy. All of them who are fighting in the name of dharma or jihad or this or that, they have some understanding about dharma. So with this type of justification, violence will never end. This is what I can say right now. Thank you.
Chidananji, would you please say something at this juncture?
No, I am going to stay for another 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So at this moment, I would not like to say anything.
Oh, thank you. Whenever you feel like.
Yeah. Sir, I have one small question.
Yeah.
Ask
Can
it.
I ask?
Yeah. Please go ahead. Rama Rao, please go ahead.
Sir, is it, that means like this question is to Swami Chidanand ji. They, in our, they means like ancient scriptures, what it says that at the time of the manifestation, at the time of the end of the manifestation.
What is the question?
What our ancient scriptures says that what happens at the beginning of the manifestation, end of the manifestation. For example, at my birth, at my death.
You know, in these dialogues, in these discussions as we have now, we should not get into the concepts of various isms. Hinduism has its concepts, Buddhism has its concepts, Christianity has, you know, the day of judgment, and then some souls going to hell, some souls going to heaven forever. So it is disturbing a hornet's nest, and I think it is not at all relevant, you know. So
Okay, sir. Thank you.
excuse
If
me,
you give time, I will call you personally. Thank you.
Can I ask a question to Swamiji as well as Harshad sir?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
My question is, if conditioning is only the culprit, why in a family, if suppose there are 3 sons, all got the same conditioning, but why they become so different, and one become a crook and other becomes a good man and all that? So it's a fact. We see this is a very common example. So it means that there is something which lies even beyond.
Yeah. Yes.
Well, here I may say very briefly.
Chidanand ji, please continue. Please continue.
Yeah. 3 children, 3 or 4, whatever, born to the same parents and growing up in the same house. Number one, do not get exactly the same conditionings, because even at primary school, elementary school, they are in touch with different people. The teachers could be different, classmates are different, and certain incidents that take place in the life of one boy doesn't take place in the life of the other boy. In addition, without taking recourse to past life, etc., let's not get into it. One thing is very clear, right from birth, the brain of the first child, the brain of the second child, and the brain of the third child have already inherited or have already stored various tendencies which are different from one another. So those are also conditionings which, without once more referring to karma or punarjanma, those conditionings could be transmitted genetically. Krishnaji in his work says, humanity has inherited violence over the millennia, a million years. So he doesn't refer to past life. Krishnaji is the last person to refer to those religious concepts, but he refers to the what science accepts, this genetic transmission. And when man and woman, get together and a child is born, the genetic combination varies from first child to second child to third child. That is also a conditioning that is transmitted biologically, not through the karma theory or punarjanma. Therefore, I would submit that they are received equal conditioning, or they are started on a fresh page is not true. The 3 children born, someone in 1960, another 62, another 65, they have different baggages right from early childhood. Then it gets further modified. I pause.
Dinesh Bhati. Please.
Yeah, namaskar. Yeah, namaskar everyone.
Namaskar.
My question to Swamiji is, like, usually it is said that good and evil will always exist as long as you are in the body. It is only in certain states of, say, samadhi or absolute states that they exist to cease to exist. So is it possible to be involved in activity and be beyond good and evil? Or is it just the state of samadhi or that absolute state that will get us rid of this good and evil?
I will answer in 2 sentences. What is said that as long as we are alive and active, conditionings will be in us is not 100% true. It applies to a large number of people, and it only shows the tremendous difficulty that you and I face in changing ourselves. But definitely we can change. The so-called radical change, so-called deep transformation is a possibility. It is a possibility. And even though cases could be just a few, that you can count with your fingers, fir bhi, that is a possibility, and that is our spiritual aspiration. I pause and request Harshad ji or someone to add to this.
Yeah. Yes. May I say something?
Yeah, please continue. Please continue.
Yes, Krishnamurti, he was in the family with many brothers and sisters, but he was different than his brothers and sisters. And when he was dying, he said that this body has been prepared for hundreds of years. And he said that probably in the next few hundred years, there would not be anybody like him. And then he asked Mary Zimbalist once whether she could be the reincarnation of his brother Nitya. So, though Krishnamurti did not talk about reincarnation, and he made it more philosophical by saying that what you do now, it affects your life in the next moment. But yet, it seems to me that he had the idea that we are born with certain qualities, and of course, there is a possibility of transformation even when we have acquired too many negative evil tendency. It is still possible to be free, as I can see in the case of Angulimal, who was a dreaded dacoit, and he had lived a life of violence. But his first meeting with Buddha, he was changed. He gave up violence and he became one of the monks in the monastery. But on the other hand, Devdatta, who was Buddha's cousin, he was a very respected monk in the Sangha for about 20 years, and he could speak like Buddha, but yet he was not free from jealousy. He wanted to take the position of Buddha, and so it is not the amount of effort one makes to change evil into good, but the quality of attention, how we look at whatever is happening within us. And that cannot be taught, but it can happen that sometimes suddenly something really catches you, some sentence, or you meet somebody and something begins to happen, a new way of living. So yes, there is a great possibility for the evil to become good, but it is maybe a kind of a phenomenon which we don't understand what is behind it. And we cannot talk about humanity when we discuss. We have to look within ourselves whether we can be free from the problems which we feel in the daily life of relationship. So somebody asked a question whether we had to just go into samadhi and give up the life in society. I would say no. It is only in relationship that we begin to understand ourselves. Like when somebody says something and it disturbs me, then if I am alert, awake, I can look at it. What is it that disturbs me. So only in the state of looking inward, there is a possibility of something new happening. And we can get lost into talking about humanity, and that will not change humanity. But we can, if we give our whole attention, we can change ourselves and we can be free from many, many problems which we create out of ignorance. Okay, I have said enough.
Sir, Shakti Kumar has written something.
Yeah.
Would you please read out?
Shakti Kumar said something about looking inner, whether that can change. And I would say yes. Only that is the only way we can change, is not by gathering knowledge of the scriptures or what Krishnamurti said, but really looking when there are problems happening, when there is anger happening or jealousy or fear, whether there is a looking at that time when it is happening. And that it requires a kind of an ongoing, effortless looking at what is happening within us. We cannot store all the information and then try to apply it. It doesn't work. Okay. So that is what Krishnamurti's teachings are, is moment by moment observing the ways of our thinking and feeling and see it from a different dimension than thinking. What is he calls awareness, or looking without thinking. Okay, I have it. Answer.
Can I share? Can I say something?
Yes, yeah.
I would also like to say some about some scientific facts, that now there is a Kirlian photography which can see the human energy field, which is called aura, and in that all the negative emotions appears as dark energies, and all the good feelings or good emotions appear as the bright energies. And they have also observed that when a person is meditating, the white light or white energy is filled in his auric field. So this is also interesting thing, and one should also be aware of this fact.
May I add one? May I add one thing to it? Punarjanma, rebirth was fact for Krishnamurti. That was true. But it is not fact for any participant participating here. If it is not a fact, it won't work. That's why he said it is not, it is useless to talk with you about it. What I feel.
What I would like to say on this is it is immaterial whether Punarjanma is there or not. But whatever tendencies Chidanand Swamiji has said, those tendencies or those instincts or the pattern which you are bringing from your childhood, that clearly shows that there is some big, there was something which was prior to your birth. Or okay, it may not be relevant today, but the flowering of it or flourishing of it clearly indicates that what sort of pattern is there. So you can easily observe that thing which is relevant today.
Thank you, Agmare.
Thank you for patient listening, sir.
Okay. Aura is a fact for you?
For me, is a fact. It is a fact.
Okay.
I have got many experiences of that since in my practice of.
I'm not asking that. I'm not asking that. Pradeep Verma is raising hand, and let him say something.
I have something to say about Harshad ji. Suppose a person has realized, he has seen, he can see it, or JK could see everything, and that's why he was he had that feeling of empathy and compassion. He talked about transformation and mutation without any delay. Absolutely. So was he not concerned about humanity? He was like a Mahayana Buddhist who could, unless until everybody is liberated, I will not sit, or I will not start, I will not keep quiet. So it is very easy. Suppose I understand, how will I share that I have no role in the society from which, and the cosmos from where I am getting everything, that I can talk like this. So simply saying that I will change myself and that is all what you can do and forget about humanity, is that so? I doubt it.
May I answer that?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah,
Please
if
go ahead.
we have problems, then our mind is occupied with our own problems, and we cannot see something about much far. So in order to understand humanity, we have to understand ourselves, because humanity mind is working very similar to our mind. And so Krishna ji could think about the whole humanity because his mind was free to look. And but when we are occupied with our own problems, then it is going round and round, that I said about a rat trying to catch its own tail. So it becomes more to talk about humanity when we have our own problems, then it becomes like a philosophy or just talking. Humanity is not going to change. Even if Krishnamurti tried a lot, people who were even listening to him, they did not change. So it is not like by talking about humanity, we can change humanity, but we can change ourselves. That is possible. And when we change to that extent, the world changes, and maybe some people will listen to what we say and they may begin to think about it. But the world has been going on with all the problems. And even after 40 years after Krishnamurti's death, the world goes on with much more problem than before. So humanity will go wherever it goes, but there is a possibility for some human beings to free themselves if they are very passionate to look within and see how thoughts and feelings are arising and creating problems in relationship. Okay, I have finished.
The time is coming to an end. Only 1 minute is left. So Ravi, please be specific in putting question. Ravi, please be specific as far as time is concerned.
Oh, I thought that there is time, so I was wanted to talk about. Actually, all these mythological stories have created a division in our mind. Like good and evil, Devta is good and Asura is evil. I do not think so, because Indra had raped Ahilya, and he was a Devta, and Asura had done quite good job. So we cannot say, and like just in Ramayana, I think Ravan was far better than Ram. It depend upon the perspective. Who is good and who is good.
Sir, would you please conclude now? Harshad,
She said it.
please conclude in it, please.
Yes,
No.
okay. Yes, as Ravi said, that there is within us all these qualities, goodness and evil. And what we can do is to really look very, very carefully, and to look inward. It requires a freedom, curiosity, honesty, and aloneness, at least in the beginning. So with that, there is a possibility of uh, coming to goodness from evil, from asatoma sadgamaya. From darkness, we can go to light, but it depends on ourselves. By listening to many people, by reading too much, by coming to many conclusions, it doesn't change. Only in relationship, daily relationship, looking at what is happening to us, and then there is a possibility of coming to that state of pure attention in which there is a love, beauty, happiness, all that is possible for human beings. Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks to
Thank you,
everybody.
sir. Thank
Thanks to
you.
participants and speakers. So please
Thank you.
end it. Come, let's